look I had seen on many of my classmates before, especially the sorority girls I had been friends with at the beginning of the semester. That friendship had only lasted as long as I could afford a bid. Girls like me couldn't do that. I was at Winthrop on scholarship. Bids were several hundreds of dollars a semester, and I couldn't afford the promise of connections after I graduated. Before I'd realized sororities were something girls had to pay for to be a part of, I'd been so excited to join. Now that I'd lost all of my friends and been outcast because I was too stuck up, aka I wasn't rich enough to afford tutors and pre-written papers for my finals, and therefore spent all of my extra time studying, I wasn't anything more than a blip on their radar. An ugly blip, or so my ex-friend and the sorority queen Victoria liked to remind me. They had dropped me faster than a carb and sugar-infested Christmas cookie. I sighed heavily when Stacy ignored me and pulled the guy over to her bed across the room, shoved him down on the floral covers, and straddled his lap. I grabbed my earbuds and shoved them in, cranking up the Study Tunes playlist I had at the ready. My concentration zeroed back in on my notes, but when Stacy's moans rose over the volume in my headphones, I sucked in a breath and decided that enough was enough. It didn't matter if the university was under a severe snowstorm warning or not. I would rather take my chances with the blizzard outside than the sex noises across the room. Maybe if worst came to worst, I could camp out in one of the conference study rooms on the second floor of the library. I closed my laptop and chanced a subtle glare over at my absorbed roommate who had managed to finagle herself out of her shirt. Rolling my eyes, I stuffed my laptop and textbook into my messenger bag and grabbed my keys off the nightstand. The hallway was a veritable ghost town. While most students had been lucky enough to finish their exams early, I was stuck taking an exam on the very last day at the very last time spot. I would have much preferred to get this torture over with. What university scheduled exams the week before Christmas? My foot tapped against the thin carpet of the hallway as I waited for the elevator doors to open. Just as they did, a guy walked up behind me and squeezed past. Recognizing the tall auburn-haired jock with sharp honey-brown eyes and a body made for a god, I sighed. Cody smiled at me as his hand hovered over the elevator buttons.
"It's a little late for you, isn't it, Jamie?"
he asked.
"Where are you heading?"
"None of your business," I snapped. I didn't have a problem with Cody Lawson, defensive linebacker for Winthrop University's champion football team. But I knew that if his girlfriend, Victoria Packer, found out I had even looked at him, she could make my life more of a living hell than it already was with Stacy as my roommate. Even the snowstorm outside wouldn't create enough ice to cool Victoria's vengeance.
"Feisty tonight, aren't we?"
He chuckled as he hit the button for the first floor and leaned back. I turned my face away. "You would know," I said, before muttering below my breath, "I bet Victoria can be feisty too." He grimaced and scratched his clean-shaven jaw, drawing my attention to the beautiful lines of his face and throat.
"We, broke up a couple of weeks ago,"
he admitted.
"She got to be too much for me."
Guilt slammed into me. Shit, I'm such a fucking bitch. "I'm sorry to hear that," I replied with a wince. It wasn't like he was wrong. Victoria was a possessive freak. For some reason, it seemed as if her mind had never left that high school mentality, yet she had enough charisma that people at Winthrop adored her. I remembered asking Cody once if he had notes for our physics class. I had missed them while I was out with the flu, and after he'd given them to me, Victoria had, accidentally, spilled her hot coffee all over them. Back then, I'd still been under the impression that she was just clumsy. It'd only been when I'd overheard her tell her friends how I was such a bitch hitting on her boyfriend that I realized the truth. I sighed internally. This was college, not fucking high